2 Timothy chapter 3, we're working our way through verse 10. You, however, know all about my teaching, talked about that, my way of life, we talked about that, my purpose, and that's where we were last time. My question is, what's your purpose? What are the things or the one thing that guides and catalyzes and motivates and with in the most positive ways drive you? Those are things that you're not going to think about normally because for most of us, we're just figuring out how do we get through today. Sometimes, how do we get ready for tomorrow? And sometimes even beyond tomorrow. But if we don't identify our purpose, then we're at the mercy of whatever comes our way. Whatever random things, and on one hand, nothing is random. Everything either is from God's permission or out of His initiative, and so, but they seem random to us. It's the old saying is, if you haven't picked a destination, any road will do. And so, I don't want to live my life that way. I want to be spontaneous when it's appropriate, and that's difficult for a lot of us. Some of us are kind of high control people. Spontaneity is difficult for high control people. But I want purpose. I want an objective in my life that is beyond my life, something bigger than me that I can pursue. Okay, Paul had purpose. It was obvious. He wasn't just out there making it up every day as he went along. He wasn't waking up each morning going, gee, I wonder what would be fun for today. He was a man on a mission. Okay. And then he says, you all know all about my teaching, my way of faith, my purpose. Faith. I struggle with faith. I have friends who I think they have the spiritual gift of faith. There's two or three that I'm really convinced that's one of their primary spiritual gifts. I'm not even talking on that level. I'm just talking about the level of daily, moment by moment trust in God. My anxiety, often it just stays, vibrating up here. And when you think about it in spiritual terms, the key for reducing, minimizing, even eliminating anxiety is faith. Paul says, don't be anxious for anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. I do that. I mean, the last part, let me be honest. I whine to God a lot. I complain almost unceasingly. I don't like that about myself, and I'm trying to recover from that and get out of that. But there's no switch to flip for me. It's been, for as long as I can remember, it's been a dial turn. Faith is Well, how big is faith? The Hebrew writer, he wrote, without faith, it is impossible to please God. Now, the clear implication of that concept, of that phrase, is if you want to please God, what pleases Him is faith. Oh boy, often when I read that, when I think about it, when I hear someone else reading it, I just think, I'm toast. What I want to please God, but my faith is just so small. It's weak. It doesn't make it all just fine and dandy and make all this stuff go away. But there is a story from Jesus' life that gives me a glimmer of hope anyway. Jesus comes down from the Mount of Transfiguration with Peter, James, and John. And by the way, before they came down from the mountain, he said, don't tell anybody about what's happened here, which is, that in itself is a point of interest worth pondering. But okay, leave that. They come down off the mountain. And by the way, the Mount of Transfiguration would, for most of us, look like a hill, not a mount. Okay. They come down, and the disciples give them this unique greeting. Hey, Lord, we've been trying to cast a demon out of this boy, and we can't do it. Well, the father of a boy who is demon possessed, he has horrible convulsions that are not just convulsions, but they now we can kind of apply a medical point of view on this, and there are probably several medical conditions that would cause this, but the scriptures say this was the result of a demon that was oppressing, that was possessing a boy. It often, the father said, throws him in the fire or in the water. This kid was a victim somehow. We don't know all the backstory. All we know is the dad brought his son to the apostles because, for whatever reason, whether he had heard about it, had witnessed their, other events that the disciples had been connected to. But anyway, he brought his boy, and he said, whatever words he used, he asked them to please make the demon go away. They tried, and evidently they tried hard. They couldn't make it leave. And so they told Jesus about it. And Jesus, in this conversation with the boy's dad, says, do you believe I can do this? And the dad said, I believe. Help me with my unbelief. And Jesus, with a word, casts the demon out. The boy convulses one last time, and it's clear and obvious. He's done. He's clean. He's free. I love that story for lots of reasons, but the one I want to focus on is that Jesus didn't rebuke the dad by saying, well, dude, let me know when you've got faith, because until that happens, I don't do stuff. He didn't even say, as he on occasion said to the apostles and disciples, where is your faith? He just, when the dad said, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. It's almost as though the dad was phrasing what I feel. I believe, God. I believe in you. And yet, there are these holdouts, and I I'm trying to turn loose. I'm trying to believe. I'm trying to have faith. And I think Jesus would do for me what he did for that dad. He would take the faith without some kind of criticism or proviso that, okay, I'm going to do a little for you, but until you can full on put the pedal to the metal with faith, I'm just going to be able to do a little. He didn't do that. And at another point, Jesus uses what I think is hyperbole, but he makes his point regarding faith when he said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to that mountain, go jump into the sea, and it will jump into the sea. Now, did he literally mean if you got faith, and we're talking tiny faith. Have you ever seen a mustard seed? It's hardly any bigger than a grain of sand. If you've got a little faith, Jesus says, it's not like an implication. He says it outright. A little faith will do big things. So I don't need, maybe the case is, I don't need more faith. I don't need bigger faith. A little faith, a tiny amount of faith is enough to do big things. I am not content with a mustard seed size faith, but it scares me to death what I will need to do and what God will permit into my life or bring into my life to enlarge my faith. See, here's the thing. My faith is not going to enlarge without challenge. It's like your muscles. Your muscles don't grow and expand without stress, even tearing. I hate this about faith. I'm not going to get bigger, better, larger faith without a lot of trial, testing, stress. For me, what that means is I'm going to have stuff to worry about. Well, no, okay, if I got faith, I don't have to worry. I just have to trust. That's hard. That's very difficult for me. And I think I've figured in my own life why that is. Because to trust will always involve risk. And I have developed quite an aversion to risk. I don't like taking risks. And the older I get, it seems like the fewer risks I'm willing to take. But you cannot live your life without risk. It's not possible. So on one level, our whole life, or our life of activity, and certainly our life of belief, comes back to risk. If without faith, it's impossible to please God. So faith pleases God, and faith will. I don't know that they're interchangeable, but you can't have faith without risk, and you trust, faith, trust, risk. It's all part of the deal. I think we could spend days thinking about, talking about, unpacking what does it look like to engage faith, to trust, to take risk. But we don't have days. Only got 15 seconds. That's not enough time to do anymore, so I'm going to shut her down. I'll see you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.